Hi.
Welcome in to another episode of our seriously spiritual
But not
podcast.
so seriously.
Not so serious. Spiritual podcast.
I don't know.
We are your hosts. I am Halina Schriefer.
And I'm Bob Patton,
Patton.
otherwise known as Paul Narus.
Today, we are talking about acceptance. Do you want to kick it off?
I'll accept that. Yeah, I guess I'll kick it off with a little discussion about how we're at a time of the year where it doesn't seem like things are doing anything. You know, it's cold outside, right?
Is it winter?
Yes. And that frustrates a lot of people.
Makes
Not
me
just
angry
the
too.
cold, but the stagnation of it all. But the important thing to hear in that is that it's that season, you know? Mm-hmm. You get it every year, and it happens in your life every year internally as well. So I guess with a broad brush, I'll paint the word acceptance on top of that. But what it really is about is recognizing where you're at and who you are right now. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about who we are right now, we talk about, you know, what our life is, where we're at, things like that. And it's okay. Like, that shouldn't be a bad thing. It's okay to be where you are right now. But I think the more in depth that we go, because that's what it's really all about, is we need to start recognizing if it doesn't make us happy who we are right now, then there's something we want to be. And we need to figure out how to get there, right? Mm-hmm. So that involves the release of the season and involves the planning for the next.
And it's interesting because the second episode we talked about change, but here we're talking about acceptance and, you know, like perceiving maybe, you know, where we're at right now so we could initiate the change, but maybe this is even the step before we even move into change, is acknowledging, well, what are our circumstances right now? What can we control right now? And what can't we control?
Well, I think that using the word control here is important because all we can control in a really, at least in the immediate way, is how we're acting and reacting to what's happening within and around us. Your reactions will determine what you get out of it, I guess. You can sit in a state of anger if you want.
Yeah.
But
well, isn't that anger itself is wanting to change our circumstances? I think Ram Dass talks about that.
Yeah, I mean,
disagreeing with the universe.
Also, like it's rooted in fear too, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm scared of who I am. Like, when we really get down to it.
Yeah.
Should you be though? Should you be scared of who you are, or should you just accept who you are?
I think it depends on the contrast of who have we evolved into. I mean, I can say in my own journey that, I mean, I strayed pretty far from, I mean, who I am now, you know, but who I see myself as a divine being. I mean, I wasn't living that for the longest time. And so, you know, if I would have, you know, 20 years ago been given a vision of this moment, I'd be like, shit, you crazy. You crazy. That's not going to happen. You crazy.
Uh-oh.
That's not going to happen. But because there's such a contrast from, who I am destined to become, but then also like coming back to the acceptance of, well, what is the nature of who I am right now, and what does that benefit me with? Where it's like we're always become your best self. I mean, it's a tagline,
But it's also an ongoing thing.
Yes, yeah.
Much like we talk about healing around here, that there's no point where you go, oh, great, I'm healed.
Mm-hmm. I did it.
But you can say, I healed that, but that doesn't mean that it ever stops. And it's called growth.
What is this word?
And like even 3 years ago, like I was still struggling with presenting myself to the world as a tarot reader. Like, what would people think? But then I remembered that I don't care that much.
Yeah.
So, but it's still, I mean, there's fear involved in it, but doesn't it feel more liberating to just admit that you are who you are, accept that you are who you are, and if there's tweaks that need to be made along the way, which there always are, and they always lead, like if you can look at your life in a span of, 5 years, each little step you took brought you further along, and if you give up on that process of releasing what you don't like and building into what you do want, then you just become this stagnant being of that the character on TV who's just never happy,
That wears the same clothes every day.
Yeah.
Like Doug Funny.
Or Homer Simpson.
Or Homer Simpson.
Or all of the Simpsons for that matter.
Yeah.
And I mean, they've been at it for 20 plus years.
I know. They sure have come into acceptance.
They may make you laugh, but their lives don't seem that great sometimes.
I had a friend recently gift me, I mentioned something about him learning to accept my life, and he had said, what if you use the word embrace? Like that feels like it takes my mind from accept of like this like neutral standpoint in my circumstances to, well, what can I do with what I have right now?
Yeah,
and there's the creativity.
The word embrace, at least in my mind, how I visualize words, we were talking about that last night. Some people don't do that, which is weird. Yeah, you're all weirdos, the people that don't get visuals. Anyway, but embracing is melding into whatever you're embracing. It's becoming a part of it. And to take the word acceptance out of it and use the word embrace is that moment where you fully blend with who you truly are. Not the mask that you wear every day in public, and not the character you play at work or to your family or to certain friends and things like that. When you embrace who you are, you become who you are. And that's the hardest thing, I think, is to carry that throughout an entire day even. It's sometimes impossible for you to even comprehend.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I got to go see this person. I got to go to the doctor today, and I got to, lie to the doctor about my symptoms, or,
That's what you do?
Sometimes. I feel great, Doc. Just blood pumping out of my neck.
Just a flesh wound. So yeah, with coming back to the time of this recording, it's winter time. Acceptance invites us into that pause, whereas in our last episode in talking about change, that's the movement, that's the doing, that's the masculine, but the acceptance is the being as we are, and the allowing of what is to take place and to integrate. And I've noticed a pattern within myself over the years of discontentment. And the word contentment, and maybe I talked about this in one of the episodes, but contentment in itself can have light attributes and shadow attributes. And so the shadow attributes, which is the one I'm referencing here, is like always needing to make change because we're not able to stop and be with our circumstances,
Right.
because that means then we're in the unknown and we're not in control of our circumstances. So the contentment on the light side would be that true acceptance of, oh, okay, like everything is being taken care of, everything's aligned, I can rest and be in this energy without trying to force anything to happen that's not ready to take place.
Yeah, it's those things that we want. You know, we come to moments where we want something to be one way and we want it to change to the way we want it to be, you know? And sometimes things just have to lay where they are and change happens over time. And something that I've been picking up on over the last, you know, short period of time in my life is that a lot of times I find myself in a place where maintaining seems safe because maintaining is maintaining, but it takes me away from who I truly am. And I think that re-embracing the fact, again, with that word that you just decided to introduce
You're welcome.
when the word is acceptance, but taking it away from that and truly embracing who I am again, it almost generates an immediate relief in the system to go, oh, shoot.
Do we cuss on this channel?
I don't know if we do or not. But, oh, dang, that's who I am, and now I feel better.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting in a place of going, okay, don't take too many steps forward, too many steps back, too many steps left, too many steps right. Just kind of try and hold yourself in this spot where it seems like everything's okay. And that also creates the stagnation that we find in life. If you're never willing to break free from the moment, like we talk a lot about embracing the moment, and that is a very practical and honest thing to do, and it's very powerful. But if you're never willing to change what that moment is, that moment just stays the same.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get lost, and that's just the way it is. Sometimes we forget. Sometimes, I mean, it's part of the human nature to be forgetful. And I think at times you find yourself thinking it's momentary and not seeing it as a long-term thing. So
Trusting the process of that, not trying to skip past the lessons. And that's something that I've learned too in my journey is, you know, I learned this in my job when, you know, I was just like, okay, like I'm fed up, I'm gonna quit, you know, but then my intuition told me, no, you need to stay because there's things here that you need to learn first. Otherwise, that cycle's gonna repeat itself next time. So I had to practice patience for the process of that so I can gather all of the information because, you know, it's who do we want to live as? The ego, you know, just as these human bodies, or do we want to live as these spiritual beings that are embracing each moment and looking at the lessons of each moment? And I think that's something that can really catch us is, you know, when we're looking at, I want more money, or I want a different job, or, you know, I want the different partner, or like, you know, we're wanting to create change, but why are we doing these things? Why are we seeking out these desires? Is it because our human bodies and minds are uncomfortable knowing whatever it is that we know? Or is there something spiritual that we have access to as we move in a certain direction that we wouldn't have access to if we're just operating as human beings. And this is the awakeness. When we say we awaken, we're awakened to the grand scheme of our lives and the full picture of who we are, both as humans and as spiritual beings. But if we're just operating on the human side of, I'm uncomfortable right now, so I want to change my circumstances, then we're not going to have access to those deep spiritual meanings. But if we realize that we're uncomfortable in our circumstances, yet sit with it and breathe with it and be with it and listen, that's when all the insight can come in. And those are those profound moments. Those are the moments that remind us why we're here. But if we're constantly changing, we're going to miss out access to all of those lessons.
And honestly, to put that in a societal picture, I think that's the biggest problem with society right now, is that when somebody disagrees with our beliefs, a lot of times we tend to stand up and walk out of the room. Say you were in a room with 10 people, including yourself or counting yourself, and every single time someone said something that you disagreed with, you just got up and walked out of the room. You would be in that room for less than a second.
Yeah.
And that translates into the societal picture of we see something or a person, like this comes into play a lot in politics, and I don't want to get a ton into politics, but ghost cat.
Just a regular day. Carol saw the ghost cat yesterday too. That's funny.
So
anyways,
that threw me off a little bit.
So politics and disagreements and walking out of rooms.
So we see something on the TV and then we change the channel because and then they promote this, and then we're brushing this broad stroke across an entire group of people. It starts with just the anchor, then it moves into the network, and then it moves into these people, and then we come to these points where there's just anger across the board, and then you hear somebody from your own side say something you didn't really agree with, and then you're like, oh shoot, the whole thing is changing. This isn't how it was when I was a kid. And then we start talking about generations and these damn millennials and
we're just
whatever.
coming out of the holidays. I imagine this is everybody's holiday conversation.
We fuel these anger issues within ourselves because we're not willing to just sit in an uncomfortable spot for a second. Just be uncomfortable for a second. Just for a second.
Yeah. And then maybe even a second longer.
Eventually.
We can shift our energy. If we breathe into, okay, I'm feeling some discomfort with this situation or with what this person said. Am I jumping to anger? Am I jumping to judgment? Am I jumping to fear? Or can I listen to what's actually happening right now and gain access to something deeper than what my mind is able to access right now?
Yeah, and no one's saying you have to change your mind either.
No, that's, I think, the fear.
Right. It's like, oh my God, they're going to say something that sounds logical, and I'm going to be like, oh man, everything I believed my whole life is a lie.
Which is terrifying, and many people are confronting that right now. I had said to a student once who was hesitant about card readings and tarot, I'm like, well, I don't know if that aligns with my beliefs. And this is a Reiki student. And I said, okay. So then I got out the Moonology Oracle card deck. And I said, here, just pick a card. No big deal, piece of paper, some words on it. And then they picked the card and like, wow, that really resonates. I said, are you okay with that? Did anything bad happen? Are you in
probably
danger?
whatever evil spirit rules your religious belief.
Right, absolutely. And so what we talked about and what I've challenged myself with and what I challenge others with is let your faith be questioned, continuously. I think it was the Dalai Lama that was asked, if science was able to disprove everything that you believe, what would you do? And then he was basically like, I guess we'll have to change our beliefs. Like,
Right.
no big deal, you know, but when we're so structured and looking at, oh, this is the way things are, we're not able to access acceptance of other people, and we're creating separation with other people. So how would you say, like, with because there's so much black and white happening right now in our world and within families, I mean, we talk about that a lot here, how would you say we can start to learn acceptance when it comes to other people disagreeing with us? Or like, we have many black sheep who come here who they feel that they're different than their family because of their beliefs, because of their lifestyles. How can we learn to accept people in our families and our communities?
I think it starts with just the microcosm of the same thing, and that is accepting the circumstance that you're sitting in that moment. Is you're sitting with people who you say you love and accept, and then you're getting angry at them because of who they are. If you just sit for a moment and just be I mean, it comes back to the present moment thing, but it's the microcosm of the grander thing of stop getting so offended by the smallest thing, because you look across the table at someone you love so much and they disagree with you on this one thing that you've built all this importance up to this one thing, and because they don't agree with you in that one thing, you write them off because this is such a grand thing, the grand idea you've created right here, and they're just a person with a different opinion, and maybe they have a grand opinion that's different too, but you're talking about two grandiose things coming together into two people who love each other, who simply just have to sit across from each other and share a meal and be like, okay, you know, just sit there and be okay in that moment. It may make you mad because you have to debate and argue, but debate and argue is fun to, well, some people maybe, I don't know.
So would you say it's like when there is a disagreement like that, we'll go with the family, that I suppose I feel if somebody disagrees with my beliefs that they aren't accepting me for who I am, and then I feel sad because of that.
Has it ever happened in your life where somebody has disagreed with a belief you had and then followed up that statement with, and I just don't accept you because you don't think that way?
Well, they didn't say that, but
did they ever imply that?
You know, and I don't know, but I think that's the fear.
Right.
You know, when it's somebody, like you mentioned, that there's two people that love each other, but then when there's that disagreement, that's the fear of, you know, well, I'm going to react this way because I'm actually terrified that you're going to walk out of my life because I'm different. And that we hide ourselves. I think, you know, that's what we put on these masks, you know, before we, you know, become hippies and start talking about spiritual shit on TV, but like TV.
Well, yeah, look at me
on
with my polo and my
Columbia
Columbia sweatshirt.
Yeah, I got my beads on.
I am wearing linen pants.
Beads. I got my beads on. Sorry, crystals. But yeah, like we hide before we come out into, you know, or start coming out into who we know ourselves to be. I think because of that fear of not being accepted. It's like, you know, I mean, I remember when I was little, like, you know, I could see things and I could sense things and I could talk to God, and I was getting visions of past lives and all of these things that like nobody was talking about. So I was like, is this just me? I better like keep quiet, because if I say something, then people are gonna think I'm nuts and walk out of my life. You know, and that actually happens to people.
It does.
It does.
It does, and that's because of the other person's fear and then your fear combined into one thing. That it's two energies pushing against each other. It just doesn't. To me, it seems illogical to take all the emotion out of it, everything out of it, and just focus solely on the logic of the situation. It seems illogical to write someone off that you care about and cares about you based on something that doesn't affect you that much on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's an opinion. It's an opinion. That's what we're talking about. Opinions aren't facts. So what does it matter? And then, like in your circumstance, what you're saying is it's implied, but are you jumping to conclusions there?
Probably, because the mind creates the story of the situation.
Right. So just change the story.
Yeah.
Change the story back to the baseline, which is, I love this person and they love me. Does any of this matter at that point?
Yeah. And bringing it to acceptance, if we are, I have to cough.
A lot of good that Ricola's doing.
Oh yeah, I have my Ricola.
How did you say that?
Ricola.
Can you lengthen the E part?
Ricola.
You're almost there.
Anyways.
Hi, garbage.
So acceptance. Where was I going with this?
Oh no, we've changed the word to embrace now.
Oh yeah, that's true. All right, I had to get my visual for that. So to simplify it, because the mind's going to create this story that like, oh, this person's thinking this, or this is, I lost my job. That means I'm going to go broke. I'm going to have to, whatever, my family, we're all going to be living on the streets. All the, like the story, comes through. But what if we focus on the present moment and tell a different story, which is, I have clothes on my back, I've got food on my table, and I'm blessed.
Well, yeah, in the moment, everything is okay. So if we can take life, very hard to do, but take it moment by moment, it's very simple. You just go from one moment and realizing that you're okay to the next moment and realizing that you're okay. A multitude of things can happen in each moment, but you're still okay in that moment. Like, as long as you're experiencing moments, everything's pretty much okay.
It's a sign of a lack of trust in ourselves if we are we're creating the story and trying to, decide all of these, how can I prepare for the future in all of the ways possible so that way I can be safe. But I was listening to Alan Watts about trusting in ourselves. And, he's like, you can think of all these different ways to solve your problem, but then when the problem actually presents itself, you're just going to make a decision on the whim anyways, which has nothing to do with anything that you've already prepared for.
Right.
But it brings the mind ease
because you don't know what the springboard is.
Yeah.
You don't know where the point where decision is made has to happen.
Yeah.
It's like if you look at a situation like, I guess I'll use an analogy or a visual instead of the analogy I wanted to use. But like, say your problem is a line, and you sit there and you try to figure out for days sometimes how to get from point A to point B on that line. You don't know where you're dropping into the line at. So there's an infinite amount of points on that line. There's not just point A and point B. So wherever you're dropped into that line, that's where you have to take the action, or that's where you're gonna take the action from. And you can look at your entire life from this perspective and consider the line time, which is not relative to anything in this situation, but you're dropped in at a certain moment and you start taking action from that moment. It's not like, were you sitting around before you were born? And some people will say yes and some people will say no, and planning out when you were going to drop in. And what were you going to do when you dropped in? And if that's the case, then why not just do it in reverse too? Like, okay, I'll plan when I'm going to drop out or jump out of it, and then make a plan for what I'm going to do next. But I think the ultimate understanding of the thing is when we take action unconsciously. And maybe we should be more conscious of it and slow it down.
And that's coming back to like when we talked about like the winter of, this isn't a time to go and do all of these things.
Right.
This is a time to reflect. And
It ain't 90 degrees outside, folks.
no, there's nowhere to go, depending on where you're at. We've got some friends in Florida.
And Arizona.
Arizona. Yeah. Anything else you wanted to share on acceptance?
You mean embracing? Embracement?
Yeah, or anything.
No, it just, I guess I'll leave it with coming back to the time, this season that we're in, both physically in our bodies and physically in the environment around us. This is the most important time of the year for you to analyze and let go of what you don't like anymore and start moving yourself or putting yourself in a position to move forward with who you do want to be and how you want your life to look. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Hear, hear. There.
Cheers.
Cheers with my...
Dandelion
I bought
tea.
this.
Oh yeah, you
for
do
my
love
son.
farts.
And he doesn't use it, and so you conveniently
Are we gonna start?
placed it out for me to use today.
Are we gonna start the comedy cup challenge?
Yeah. Every week I'm going to try to get a funky cup. So if you find any at Goodwill, you let me know.
Or just in your cupboard?
Or in your cupboard if you're getting rid of mugs. All right, well, I invite us to all take a moment to pause if you'd like to meditate with us and become aware of this moment right here. Maybe your mind is rolling with thoughts of what we talked about or something that happened earlier today or thoughts about maybe what will happen later today, but just for right now, focus on this moment. Notice your body in this space. Notice the sacred breath that flows through you, this acknowledgement of life, of living spirit that flows through you as the breath. And just for this moment, let these things be enough. Let it be enough that the body is existing, that the breath is flowing. Never mind what you think happened earlier today or what may happen later. We can feel in this moment that all is well because we are here. We exist. And this existence is a confirmation that a greater purpose is at play for us. And for that, we can give thanks. Together, we'll take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Thank you so much, our dear OP family, for your patience as my voice is healing from being sick last week. And thank you for, as always, for joining us on our YouTube channel. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. And share this video with a friend. If you've been talking to somebody or someone's going through something, send this video to them. Maybe that'll help them and invite them out to our community here in Lighthouse Ordinary Pioneer, or to any of our content on our page. It's a way that we can interact with you in multiple ways versus solely getting together with you in person, which of course we also like. So
it's fun.
Yeah, we're recording these videos every week. So if you have a topic idea, please put it in the comments. If you have any questions about what we talked about, you can put those in the comments as well, and let us know if this resonates with you and any other ideas that you have on this topic. Many blessings, and namaste. Brought to you by Ricola.
How do you say that?
Ricola.
How do you say that?
Ricola.
If I don't hear some yodeling soon, we're going to have a problem.
Well, I guess that's a wrap.